Life has a funny way of letting it know just how much it hates you. And that's what Lincoln was feeling right now. His hopes of not having to wear the squirrel suit costume on Monday was dashed due to the simple fact that Lola had a test that she didn't study hard enough for. Being the little brat she was, the princess had forced Lincoln to wear the suit, even though they weren't really in the same grade. She figured by that, being in the same building as him, his luck would spread to her. This came a mixed blessing. Some didn't care for the fact that he wore one of the school's mascots. There was a guy who wore a rooster outfit for the football team. But those that didn't knew who was inside that squirrel suit took the chance for him to mock him for it. Chandler and his few other cronies made an example of that, giving Lincoln an urge to rip the suit and often pummel the kid. However, he didn't want to risk getting suspended for it. For hours into the school day, and already the boy was frustrated. Picking the books he needed out of his locker, he heard two sets of feet coming towards him. Figured it was more people wanting to take another jab of his outfit. He did his best to ignore it. "Is that you, Lincoln?" Turning his head, he was just glad that it was just Clyde and Ronnie Ann. "How did you know it was me?" "Well, this is your locker, right, Lamo?" the tomboy answered. "Yeah?" He put his math book away. "So what's with the suit?" Clyde asked. "I don't know how you became the new mascot of the softball team." "It's not really like that. My whole family thinks this is a good luck charm." Ronnie Ann couldn't help but laugh. "Luck? That has to be the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Luck doesn't get anywhere in life. Skill does." "Not my crazy life." "How did you end up wearing it anyway? I didn't think you were that interested in sports," the nerdy boy questioned. The white-haired boy sighed. "Lynn brought me to her stupid game last month and she ended up bombing it. That's the only time I was able to be in any of her games because I'm busy with my other sisters. And she blames me for her loss, thinking that I somehow jinxed it," he explained, his frustration ever so clear. Ronnie Ann grew irritated. "That does sound like something she'd do. I think her main weakness is that she can't blame herself for anything." "So you put the suit on to make her believe that you weren't bad luck?" Clyde summarized. "Yeah, long story short, my whole family thought I was bad luck, so I proved them wrong. Now they think I'm good luck whenever I have this thing on." "Well, why don't you just take it off?" the African American pointed out. "Because every time I do, I gotta put it back on within a minute. If I try to take it off while my sisters are in the middle of something, bad things start to happen. I don't know how maybe I am good luck to them or something, but I can't wear this thing in the heat, and it seems like whenever I get dragged into their shinings, something bad happens to me." "Like what?" the girl asked. "Well, let's see. Yesterday I almost got eaten by an alligator." "Wow, that's odd," Clyde stated. "Maybe we could try and find a way to convince your family that you're not good luck either? That way neither good or bad?" "I guess, Clyde, but that's going to be tricky. I had put this suit on just to prove I wasn't bad luck. What would I have done to prove if I'm not good luck?" "Like I said, luck won't get you anywhere. Skill does. And if that doesn't work, I'm sure a little persuasion will help," the Hispanic girl chuckled, cracking her knuckles. "Thanks for the thought, Ronnie Ann, but I don't think violence is going to solve anything." The girl shrugged in response. "Who knows? These beauties here have gotten me through a couple of problems." Ronnie Ann kissed her fists. Lincoln could have not agreed with her in that regard, but there was one particular problem. She wasn't a violent person. Sure, she got into fights with his sisters, but only if he was rather pissed about the situation. Not only that, but she was fairly sure that if he got into a fight with any of his sisters, he'd likely lose, as he could never bring himself to harm severely yet. Such an option wasn't entirely out the window, given how his family was treating him right now. "Lincoln!" a shrill voice called out. The trio looked and saw Lola storming up to them, clearly upset at something. "Did you take your costume off at any point today?" The white-haired boy deadpanned. "No, I've been wearing it since this morning." "Then why do I have a B on my test?" She then pushed a paper to his face. She then grabbed a cuff from the front of the suit and pulled him to her level. "How am I supposed to be perfect if you're not keeping your end of the bargain?" The little princess quickly found herself pulled away from her brother, only to become face to face with a certain tomboy's glare. How is it Lincoln's fault that you got a B on your test? Was he supposed to help you study or something? Well, no. Then shut your yap. You got that grade because of your own faults. If you studied, you might have gotten an A, and no amount of luck would have helped you regardless. Ronnie Ann hopped Lola on her butt, who looked like she was about to cry. Now apologize. Sorry, Lincoln, Lola said sullenly before walking off. The Hispanic girl smirked. See, Lamo? All you need is to set the record straight and give a good dose of reality check. While I do think that's a bit much, she's got a point. If that isn't something you want to do, you could try the subliminal approach, Clyde suggested. I guess that could work. Lynn's got baseball practice today, so I guess I could try with her. Ronnie Ann had to silence her laughter for this. You're actually going to threaten Lynn? No, I'm going to try Clyde's approach. Lynn would kill me if I tried to change her mind physically. Yeah, good call on that. Clyde nodded. So you dudes want to get some lunch now? The tomboy asked, to which the two obliged to this. Hours later in that day, Lincoln met with the Royal Woods squirrels at the field. With the softball season over, Lynn felt that it was time to hone her skills in the fine art of baseball. Especially since the precision was key due to the fact that baseball was half the size of a softball, and different techniques were required. Softball pitchers throw underhand while baseball pitchers throw overhand. Not only that, the distance between the pitcher and the batter is greater. Plus, the baseball pitcher will stand around the amount of dirt while the softballers are in level of the batter. Nothing like a challenge to get her into the sport, Lynn would always say. Since the mechanics were mostly the same, the sports lover didn't have an issue adjusting herself to the sports requirements. As the team's mascot, Lincoln was also required to be there as a show of support. However, seeing Lynn practicing baseball stirred something deep within him. It was that first softball game that he went to caused the whole mess to start, and he couldn't help but hold some sort of contempt towards the jock. He pondered on how she would get into believing things such as luck. Surely for someone egotistic as Lynn, luck would be the last thing on her mind, and yet her declaration of him being a jinx is what caused this craziness to start. If I can get Lynn to change her mind about her dumb superstitions, then maybe I can end this quicker than I thought. A smile formed on Lincoln's face for the first time that day. The biggest tomboy in the family was currently busy practicing her swings, so the middle child took his opportunity. Hey, Lynn. Hey, good luck, Link. She battered her toes with some dirt. Off. What's up? Nothing. Just want to see how everything's doing. Well, it ain't much difference other than softball. She then swung the Louisville slugger again, making the whistling noise in the process. Here goes nothing, Lincoln thought. So, how did you end up losing the softball game again? The brunette laughed. Well, at first I thought you jinxed it, but now you aren't bad luck. I just realized I didn't have luck on my side that day. Okay, but are you still sure it wasn't due to something else? Lynn then got confused. What do you mean? I mean, you think that maybe Lincoln then wanted to choose his words carefully. Maybe the other T simply practiced better to counter you? He then gave a sheepish look under the costume. Whoa, back up there. Are you implying my skills weren't good enough for one game? Lynn asked, a glare forming on her face. Well, I meant it could happen again, right? Maybe you didn't toss a ball a certain way, or... Lincoln was silenced when the bat was pointed an inch from his face. Listen here, Lincoln. I practice day in and out of day of sports, and sometimes skill just isn't good enough to win, and mine are at the very top. Why would you think I do these rituals in the softball gods? Of course now I have to do it for the baseball gods, but do you see my point? That's why I need you in that costume when the game comes rolling in. She then got an inch from his face. Even with the squirrel head on, Lincoln could still easily feel the heat from her gaze. If you insult my skills again, this bat is going to be married to your face. Capiche? Lincoln nodded fearfully. You're lucky your good luck charm with that suit on. Lynn finished before storming off. The boy breathed in a deep sigh and heavily. Nipping this in the bud is harder than I thought. Maybe I should have talked with Lisa first. Hey, wait, Lisa! That's it! Surely she still has the common sense left in her. During the ride home, Lincoln sat in the comfortable distance, away from the sport fanatic of sister. She seemed to be at ease, but anytime she looked at Lincoln, Her face contorted into a glare. He shuddered whenever she looked his way, but thankfully he had the room to avoid her at home. He waited for Len to disappear into her room before making his way to his. Once the suit was off, he walked over to the genius and baby's room, knocking softly at the door. "You may enter," the voice replied. Lincoln then stepped in and saw Lisa, studying a new strange mixture. He didn't know what it was and hoped that he somehow blew it up in their face. "Lisa, I need your help." "What else now?" "Just turn around. I'm not wearing the suit." The 4-year-old then looked over her brother, who was dressed in his usual attire. The genius just shrugged. "So you finally stopped wearing that thing in the house? Good for you." The sarcasm in her voice irritated Lincoln a bit. "Wait, you're not freaking out that I'm not wearing my good luck charm?" "Oh, pish posh. I stopped believing in that nonsense 2 weeks ago." "Wait, what?" Lincoln yelled, now furious. "I knew it. I wasn't good luck either. And you didn't say anything?" "At first, Lincoln, I actually did believe you were bad luck. But after some mental analysis, critical thinking, and the application of common sense, I came to realize that this whole luck shenanigans is nothing but tomfoolery. Same with when we visit Grand Adventure State Park and the whole Dowell incident." Lincoln's anger diminished somewhat. "So you admitted to being stupid?" he smirked. Lisa furrowed her eyebrows. "I'd rather stay sane, but yes." "But why, Lisa? Why didn't you say anything on my behalf? Do you realize what I have to go through?" "I do, and I'm sorry for that. But I thought to tell our blood relatives that your bad luck was nothing but a play on their empathetic minds. But given the circumstances, I doubt anyone would listen. Plus, I saw you were indeed needing some alone time, and just like I do when I'm busy working on my studies. However, when it came to the point where you got kicked out, I tried to convince Lynn that the whole luck-based shikism is just a big fact hoax." The little girl grew irritated. "Sporty has got to be the biggest victim-headed member in the family. I'm not surprised she even has the intellectual disorder. But what can I do?" "That I am not sure. I was hoping you would tell me the truth that they stopped this act, but it seems still they have gotten worse. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if nothing short of blowing fuse would set the record straight." "Yeah, but there's gonna be someone in this family who's willing to listen to reason. I hate having to wear that silly costume, and every time I do, something bad happens to me," Lincoln yelled, growing restless. "Yes, I've heard about the gator incident yesterday. Clearly security on the pens was not up to date. I'm sorry, Lincoln, but I'm unable to help you with this innovator. I've tried to convince them, but the defection of this house is more than I can handle. Plus, I'm in the middle of some important work." Lincoln crossed his arms. "And what is more important, the overall of your health or your male-only sibling?" He imitated the last part in her voice. "For one, I'm trying to see if I can convert everyday water into a usable fuel source. And second, the whole situation just makes an interesting case study." The 11-year-old groaned. Figures she would see this as a chance to use their family as test subjects for whatever the hell she wanted to. "Just forget it," the boy said in a defeated tone, before walking out of the room. The next 3 days weren't even better, as Lincoln was dragged into a number of his sister's activities. The weirdest part of it was that there's something that befell him, no matter how innocent as or odd and unusual it seemed, while his sisters remained unharmed. At Laurie's golf tournament, after hitting the ball and carrying off a wasp's nest before landing right in the hole, giving the 17-year-old a hole-in-one. However, the insects were less than pleased about being disturbed, but instead of attacking Laurie, they attacked the squirrel as their perceived as it was a bigger threat. Thankfully, the suit protected Lincoln, but he was displeased about the whole event nevertheless. At Lenny's fashion show, the blonde did a spectacular job of showing off the latest fashion trends. At one point, it looked like one of the stage plates might drop down on her, but thankfully none did. And in Lincoln's case, the rope suspending the bag of sand that had been worn down eventually couldn't handle the weight of the bag, causing it to land directly on him. He needed an ice pack for his head after that. At one of Lola's pageants, it was already embarrassing enough to wear the suit. And how about even the springs of the seat were faulty? Lincoln was catapulted out of his seat and onto the ceiling. Lola won due not being able to get him down, but people still laughed at the squirrel anyways. Perhaps the outlandish act occurred during Lucy's grave digging contest. While digging, the goth hit a ground wire that wasn't but it wasn't electrocuted due to the leather gloves that she was wearing. Lincoln, standing under a large lamppost at the time, with a recurring shock throughout the circuit, sent a bolt of lightning coursing through him. When the bulb above his head had broke, he was paralyzed for a couple of minutes. Thankfully, but the suit was a little scorched. Later that same day, Lynn had a baseball game, and the boy ended up catching a few fly balls to the chest and back. While Lincoln was thankful the suit did most of the punishment that he had been subjected to, he was slowly losing his mind. He was effectively sure that the squirrel suit was cursed, and none of these circumstances ever happened to him before the whole bad luck thing started. He was already wanting to trash the damn thing, but couldn't over the simple fact that his family, minus Lisa, would make him wear the suit to their needs. Even though they cared for his injuries, the suit would almost still look like it had never been harmed by the time Lenny and Lola were finished with it. In comparison, the boy still had a few bruises from the baseball hits and bee stings. At the end of the school day was on Thursday, and Lincoln had a scowl on the face. "If this keeps up, I'm gonna trash this stupid thing," Lincoln said to himself before he walked towards the school exit, carrying his book bag. "I don't care if they need their stupid luck to achieve anything. Lisa was right, anything. My family's just a bunch of..." He was then cut off by the sound of honking school buses pulling out of the parking lot. A shock ran through him as he tried to flag down his bus. "Hey, wait, I'm still here! Come back!" Naturally, his cries fell on deaf ears easily. Ride home without him. He did see some of his little sisters through the windows, but it seems they didn't notice he was missing. "Grr, fine! I wanted to walk home anyway," Lincoln then yelled, but to no one in particular. It wasn't as hot as it normally would be for a spring day, but Lincoln began to sweat as he might as well have been wearing a heavy coat with that costume on. It wasn't a long walk to his house, but taking the bus would have made the trip a lot faster. What the boy didn't know was that he tripped what could ended up being a mixed blessing. 5 minutes of walking down the street, a group of boys noticed him. They were Hazeltucky and the town's Lynn's baseball beat in baseball yesterday. It seemed they rather bit about the shut of Royal Woods they'd give him. "Isn't that one of the dumb mascots for the squirrels?" one of them said. "Yeah, Lynn sure seems to rely on that stupid thing for a lot of reason." "Well then, how about we demoralize them?" "What do you mean?" the another asked. "We take the mascot, beat him up, then ship him to the school. They will be so crushed they won't even think about playing baseball anymore." "Ain't that going to get us into trouble?" "Not if we make it look like an accident," the first boy grinned. Lincoln then took his head out to vent some heat. Then he heard some footsteps behind him. Turning to see a group of boys that were roughly twice his size, he gulped audibly. "Can I help you?" "Yeah, we noticed you wearing that costume to one of the sissy Royal Woods squirrels. How about we go for a ride?" "Actually, I'm not supposed to talk to strangers, so..." Lincoln smiled sheepishly. "We're not asking," another said as they surrounded the poor boy. Lincoln had to get out of this quick, before he found himself being roadkill. Look up! A cool pickup!" Thankfully, the dots fell for this trick, giving him a few precious seconds to push one of the boys out of the way before breaking into a sprint. Realizing the trick, the Hazeltucky boys took off after him. Lincoln's mind was racing. He was still a ways off from home. None of his friends were close enough to back him up. He had no clue where any of his sisters were, so he knew he couldn't keep up the pace for long, as though boys would soon catch up to him. Looking to his left, he spotted the downtown dump. Not the most sanitary place to be, but it was definitely big enough for Lincoln to lose his pursuers. He ran inside the fence and climbed over it, leaving the head of the costume behind in the process. The 11-year-old didn't care enough, because he might have had bigger concerns soon enough. When he climbed the fence, he was aware of "Beware of Dog" sign bolted on. The boy climbed after him, clearly disinterested in the empty fake squirrel head. Lincoln and a series of turns before coming to a stop at the sound of the scrap metal. He sat there breathing heavily to catch his breath. The boys screamed around as they continued to search for their prey, but found to no avail. Minutes passed, but Lincoln couldn't hear the cries anymore and assumed they had left. Stepping out of his hind spot, Lincoln cautiously looked around. It was still afternoon, but the shadows made the tall piles of junk of his choice hiding seemed a little creepy. It didn't help that he got a bit lost when trying to hide. The boy looked around anxiously as he walked towards what he assumes to be the exit. He also hoped that the warning about dogs wasn't real, and this proven to be false when Lincoln heard growling behind them. Turning his head, the white-haired boy saw 3 bulldogs, and they had a look of killer in their eyes. Nice doggies? Their growls increased before they broke into a sprint. Barking while doing so, Lincoln's eyes went wide as he tried to shoo them away, but to no avail. 3 dogs then jumped on him and started tearing at the suit. Even one tried to go for his neck. Lincoln failed to get around the animals off of him, but this didn't help much. However, he was given the moment to react when one of the dogs tried to go for his face again. Acting on instinct, he smacks the dogs away before taking his bag off. Using his bag as a bat, he swats the other 2 away, but they didn't leave. The trio of dogs regrouped for a moment before running at Lincoln again. However, this time he wasn't going to be caught off guard. One jumps at his face, while the other 2 dogs jumped on his legs. Their teeth didn't pierce through the suit to do much damage to the legs, but Lincoln could feel a bit of pain as the teeth scraped them. The boy manages to throw one of the dogs before using his bag to bat the other way. He then slams his bag on the other of the 3rd dog, rendering it unconscious. One of them, the other 2 jumped on him again. But one out of anger, Lincoln then used the dog into a metal pile, and hears a rather sickening squelching sound. To his horror, the dog was impaled by several pieces of metal that was jutted out into spikes. The last dog was still walking, whimpered when he saw the fallen comrades. It scurries off before something bad could happen to it. The boy was devastated beyond his words. He couldn't believe that he actually ended his life into another creature. No matter how much he wanted to look away, he couldn't. Blood dripped down from the metal from the points of the impact on the dog. Even one of its eyes had shivered from its head. Like meat on a stick, something stirred in the boy's stomach before he felt something coming up. His cheeks puffed for a moment before he emptied the contents of his stomach. Lincoln sat on the ground before looking at his hands, or rather the brown hands that were part of the suit he was wearing. Lincoln's shock soon turned to anger. He was absolutely fed up with the suit. This thing had been the entire bane to an existence. And ever since he had put it on Lynn's stupid game, nothing but bad things happened to him while his family gets out on without an injury. For crying out loud, why is this happening to me? Why do I have to be the butt of the joke of this family? All I wanted was some time to myself, and my entire family flips out over some superstitious bullshit! Lincoln would never utter a swear, but at least not until he was older. But at this point, he just didn't care. He undid the zipper at the back of the suit and tore off what was left. Spotting a burning pile of furniture, Lincoln didn't hesitate to drag the suit over and toss it into the inferno. However, something looked oddly familiar about his furniture. Is that my bed? He said in shock. He could also see the parts of his dresser in as well. His mother said they sold his furniture. Apparently, that was a lie. That they threw my stuff out like it was trash? Sadness seemed to be taking over, but instead this was pushed down by a concentration amounts of hatred. Lincoln's body shook up with rage. His family viewed him as a good luck charm. They threw out his stuff, and they seemed to care a little bit about how this was affecting him. Gritting his teeth, the boy stood up again and began stomping his way out of the junkyard. He snorted with each breath he took as he traveled back. He had a few choice words to say, when he gets back home, that is.